hopefully by doing that, that you can get a better sense of my values and what sort of my guiding principles are. And I'll be brief. I won't go in too much detail in any area, but I'm just going to briefly talk about my history. I was born and raised in Berkeley. Very active parents. My father's from the South. My mom's from the Midwest. And they met up in Berkeley in the 60s, and so I'm a product of opposing the Vietnam War and civil rights and all those types of things, and so at my earliest memories, that's who I am to my core. So after toiling around in high school and even a couple years in college, I really had no direction. And one summer in college, I came home and I worked at a summer program for kids, and it was a free program for low-income kids. And at that moment, at 19 years old, I had finally found my calling. And I had never, been super engaged in school. I wasn't a strong student. Both my parents were in education, and I had a very loving and supporting home, but I just struggled with finding that connection. I didn't have a purpose. And when I started working with young people, I finally found something where I could go to work all day long, every day, and enjoy what I was doing. Now, granted, I had been working since the 3rd grade, doing paper routes and yard work and all different sorts of things, but finally at 19, I had found my calling. So at that point, I got serious about college, and I knew if I was going to go into education that school had to be front and foremost. And so I graduated college, and I went to San Jose State, and I took the CBEST, which is the test so that you can substitute teach. And I went and applied in Richmond to be a substitute teacher. And on my 3rd day on the job, I was hired as a full-time teacher. And this is really important. I went to this school, and I came in and I went to the front office and I said, "Hi, I'm Mr. Clark. I'm here to sub room 20. And the secretary looked at me and said, "Let me go get the principal." And so she went and got the principal, and the principal walked me to this class, and she explained to me that the teacher had a nervous breakdown and that they could not keep any substitutes in that class. And if I needed her, that there was a specific student that she would name I would send that student to the office to get her. So lo and behold, it was a fantastic day. I enjoyed it. I was engaged, the students were engaged, and at the end of the day, the principal came to check on me, and she was like, "How was your day?" And I said, "It was great. It was a wonderful day." She said, "Do you want a job?" I said, "Absolutely." So I stayed at that school, and that was Martin Luther King Elementary. It was in South Richmond on South 39th Street. And during that time, I didn't have a teaching credential, so I went to school. I taught during the day, and I went to school at night, and I earned my teaching credential. During that time, as a young male elementary school teacher, there was a high demand for me. So other schools, wanted me to come to their school and teach. Other schools in the hills and in different places, in Kensington and El Cerrito and things like that. And I had opportunities to leave the school where I was, but I didn't leave. I stayed there for 5 years. I got my administrative credential during that time. And when it was time to apply for administration jobs, I applied all over the place. And one place where I just checked the box and applied was Brentwood. Well, Brentwood is about 45 miles east of Berkeley. It's a farming community, all Caucasian and Latino, the entire city, but they had affordable housing. So when I went to Brentwood, I was one of the first African Americans to work for the school district there, and that school district was kindergarten through 8. Now, mind you, I had just done 5 years in South Richmond, and now I'm in Brentwood working as a vice principal. Well, lo and behold, 10 years later, I worked my way up to elementary principal. I opened a brand new elementary school there, and then I got tapped to open a brand new middle school there in Brentwood. At both of those schools, although they were brand new and they had an influx of new community members, there were challenges. And I learned then that the issues that I faced in Richmond were no different than the issues I faced in Brentwood. Kids are kids. They come from different backgrounds, but below it all, they are kids. And parents just want what's best for their kids. So after 10 years in Brentwood, I had kind of reached my ceiling, and so lo and behold, I said, I'm going to become a high school principal. So I go to Maramani High School in Orinda. Mind you, the highest performing high school, the highest performing public high school in the Bay Area and pretty much the state. It's in the top 10. Only African-American administrator, first African-American principal. Student body is primarily all white. API scores at the time were in the high 900s. Mind you, the state target was 800. Many schools never reached 800, but Maramani was high 900s. I was there for 5 years. And when I left Maramani, I cannot explain the parents, the teachers, and more importantly, the students who were so sad to see me leave. I had been told, and I'm not saying this to be braggadocious or anything, that I was the best principal that they ever had. I knew every kid. I was engaged with all students and things of that nature. So again, my original view was correct. Kids are kids, and parents just want what's best for their kids. Maramani was a very difficult high school. It was just like any other high school. Everything on this list was present at Maramani High School. You talk about bullying, you talk about teen suicide, you talk about mean girls, things like that, you talk about locker room stuff, it was present there. 100% it was present there, and I had to address it. Every single thing on this list I had to come in contact with and address it. After 5 successful years at Maramani, I then went back to Brentwood, but I went into the high school district, Liberty High School, and I was the assistant superintendent of student services. So that's special education, that's school discipline, that's alternative school. So one week, I'm working with the kid, and I'm talking to a water polo coach from Harvard, and I'm trying to get this kid into Harvard on the water polo team as his principal. And the next week, I'm working with a student who just got out of juvenile hall and doesn't have any credits, and I have to find a school and a placement for this student. And it was seamless. It was seamless. There was no difference from me how I related in both of those situations. And so I did 2 years in Liberty School District, and then I had an opportunity to go and work in Antioch. Now, mind you, I live in Brentwood. I've lived there since 1999. And the narrative on Antioch was the exact same that I hear about Vallejo. The schools are ranked at the bottom. It's unsafe. Teachers don't care. Kids are out of control. Parents aren't engaged. All of those things. So I just explained to you sort of my trajectory of my career. I went to Antioch, and I'll tell you, it was one of the most gratifying and rewarding jobs that I've done. Teachers were engaged, parents were engaged, the kids were great, the staff that was working there was great, and we started doing some amazing things with the students there, student-centered, dealing with these things here that are on this board here. And so I worked there for a year, and then lo and behold, the position here for Vallejo opens up. Okay, and so again, I've been very intentional with my career. So why would I come to Vallejo after reading all this stuff that's been written about Vallejo, all the things in the news, all the things in the newspaper? It was opportunity. And I know in my heart, kids are kids, parents are parents. They want what's best for their kids. So I'm here in Vallejo right now. I'm 1 month into the job. I've been meeting with people around the clock. I've been visiting schools. I've been going out into the community, and I'm seeing great things in our school. Are our test scores as they were at Maramani? No, but you know what? The test scores in Brentwood didn't compare to the test scores at Maramani. But there is potential in Vallejo. I'm not the one who's going to come here and just miraculously change the school in the district and this district that's been here for, a long time. It is going to be a collaborative effort. But what I'm going to bring to the table is my 23 years of education, my 48 years of life for fighting for equity and being engaged with kids and championing for kids, all kids, all kids. Yes, I'm African American. I have a special spot in my heart for African American students. I do, yes, but I have proven over the years that I can advocate and connect and engage with all kids from all backgrounds, from all ethnicities, from all walks of life, and that's what I do each and every day. So my plan for Vallejo, to work on the culture. Schools, when it comes to culture, is so important. You can come up with all the guidelines and all the policies and all those things, but you know what happens? The teacher gets the kids, the teacher shuts the door, and what that teacher wants to do, that teacher does. I mean, quite honestly. Principal might come in and they may, pull out the curriculum and things like that, and they may, teach a little bit while the principal's there, and then when the principal leaves, the teacher goes back to doing what they're doing. So, you have to work on the culture. You have to let teachers know how valuable and how important they are. But what do we do in this country? What do we do during these times? We bash teachers, the unions, this, that. We just bash them. That's not what I intend to do. I intend to put our teachers in the proper place where they should be, and that is at the top. They are the biggest influencer on student achievement, are those teachers. We can't control where our kids come from. There's nothing we can do about that. No programs, anything. Our kids are who they are when they come through those doors. But the teachers, we can work with them, and it starts with the culture, creating a culture where they are valued, where they are trained in how to deal with these types of things. Because what happens is we all bring our own personal experiences when it comes to dealing with stuff like this. And I explained my personal experiences, so I'm very secure of where I am and what I believe in and what I value. But everyone has different values and come from different places. And you can't beat that into somebody. I can't beat my values into someone. I can't force someone to take on my values. I have to, again, have dialogue with them, respect them, go through trainings with them, have debate, share research. All of those types of things are what you do to influence a culture. So we are going to ensure that students are safe. That's one of the things that I've been hearing about is the Vallejo schools aren't safe, and this is happening to our schools, and how can we make our schools safe? Well, the way you make our schools safe is that you have to start engaging the students. When you discipline students, you have to discipline them with respect. That doesn't mean that you let them get away with whatever happens. I am a tough person when it comes to kids. I'm a no-nonsense person. I've expelled and suspended more kids than I can count. But the kids that I've expelled and I've suspended, if they were to walk through this door right now, they'd come up, shake my hand, and have a brief conversation with me, and then go about their business. They're not going to see me and say, "Oh, I want to get that guy. That's that guy who did me wrong and did this to me and did that to me." That's what we have to create in our schools, and it's a two-way street. It takes the teachers. The teachers have to be consistent. They have to document. They have to be very intentional with their rules and with their procedures in class, and they have to be consistent with that. And then when kids step out of line and aren't doing what they're supposed to do, then they need to be corrected. And it needs to happen with respect, and it needs to be humanistic, and it needs to happen with empathy. So it's very simple. Oftentimes, we just lose it. I remind this kid every day, bring your pencil, stop talking, keep your hands to yourself, stop doing all these things. And teachers and administrators, they tell kids this every day. And then finally, when the kid has done it and reached their limit, you're out of here. But then what happens? We call home, parents never been called. Or when that vice principal gets that kid sent into their office, and if they don't have any detailed record, that there's been interventions or things that have taken place with that kid, by law, they have to send the kid back to class. And then, so what happens? The teachers get upset. This kid, I've been talking to him every day. I send him to the office, and they send him right back. Well, that's when I talk about culture. I need to not force it down their throats how important it is to document and to intervene. I need to show them why it's important and the effects that it can have by addressing it and by correcting bad behavior. So those are the types of values and things that I'm going to bring to this position. Now, I've been a second grade teacher, I've been a fifth grade teacher, I've been a fifth and sixth grade vice principal, I've been a sixth, seventh, and eighth grade vice principal, I've been an elementary principal, I've been a middle school principal, I've been a high school principal, I've been a assistant superintendent for student services, I've been an associate superintendent for educational services. There is nothing at all that Vallejo can do that I haven't seen or had to deal with in one way or another. Except maybe Vallejo politics. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. So I can relate to everyone in every position that they're doing. And the way that you bring about change is not by force. I'm not going to force it on people. I have to work with them in a collaborative way. And not only I have to develop those individuals around me. I have to develop my team, develop my principals so my principals can develop the teachers so that our teachers are communicating with parents and that we are following procedures and regulations so when we do have that student that brings a weapon to school, that student can be dealt with and we haven't dropped the ball in documenting all the things that the student has done. Now, there are things that if a student does, we have to recommend expulsion. If a student brings a gun to school, we have to recommend a 1-year expulsion, no ifs and buts about it. But if a student has a joint in school, it's not an expellable offense. But what happens is when we're inconsistent, we might suspend or call the police on this kid, but then we intervene and correct and support another kid who does the same thing. So that's where that inequity comes. We have to enforce our rules and procedures equitably across the board. So those are the types of things that I am going to bring to Vallejo. Unfortunately, we have a budget deficit like most places. Unfortunately, we have to make adjustments. Unfortunately, our schools, majority of our schools were built in the 40s and 50s and they're old. Although they're old, what I have found as I'm going around to them, they're immaculate. Not the high schools after lunch, not the middle schools after lunch, but you walk in those elementary schools, you walk down the hall, the floors are shining, the classrooms are clean, kids are engaged, things are happening in our schools. I can't tell you how many people that I've come into contact with over the last month where they say, oh, the schools are a mess. And because I'm new, I'm just listening right now. But before long, I'm gonna say, okay, well, what are you doing about it to fix it? It's all of our responsibility. It is all of our responsibility. Yes, I'm the chief, I'm the leader, but we all have to come together if we really, truly wanna see our schools improve. And I'm confident that that can happen. I have been successful in every position that I have been in because of my values and because of who I am and because I do my homework and because I come to things prepared and because I follow through with things and because I communicate and because I don't chastise and because I don't call people out and give them tongue lashings in public and things like that. Those are the things that I do to ensure success. And those are the things that I'm going to bring to the Vallejo City Unified School District. So, I don't know if you need more, but as you can see, thank you. So again, as you can see, I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about this work. I've been passionate about this since I was 19 years old. I was fortunate enough to have adults who took me under their wing and engaged with me and gave me second chances. And I got punished a lot. I got in trouble. I messed up. I got an F in class before. It happens. But I survived, but it also helped from mentoring and from being around people who cared about me. And that's what I want to produce here. So I want to address these things. I mean, I think I sort of have, but I want to talk specifically about several of these things. So first of all, This is a Senate bill, so we have to do this. I mean, we have to adopt curriculum that addresses the contributions of all people, African Americans, Native Americans, homosexuals, Latinos, whoever. We have to do that. Okay. Now again, I talked about culture. Just because it's in the textbook, can a teacher still skip that and not teach that? Yes, they can. But if they start understanding their duty to do this and not shaking a finger at them and threatening them and things like that, but letting them know, like, we must do this for our kids. You need to understand that your kids come in with all different experiences. They could have a parent or a relative, or they themselves, maybe any one of those groups that I just talked about. We have to respect all kids. Bullying is an issue. Bullying is an issue. And you know what? Bullying, the kid who is bullying has problems, and the kid who's getting bullied has problems. It's an unhealthy thing. Does that mean just because we want to solve the problem? Yes, if a kid's bullying, should that kid be disciplined? Should that kid be dealt with? Absolutely. But you know what? If we don't give some care or some intervention on that kid, he or she's just going to come back. They're just going to come back and do it again. There's some dysfunction that's in place that's making that kid bully. But oftentimes we get caught up in what we can prove, in just making a rash decision. We just, we get one report from a kid that they got bullied, and then what do? We go and take the aggressor and we suspend them or whatnot. That doesn't solve the problem. That kid still should be suspended, but there has to be some sort of, you got to close that gap. You have to bring those families in. Have that kid, talk to the victim so they could really understand. That's restorative justice at its best. Restorative justice isn't just, cutting suspension and cutting expulsions by turning a blind eye to negative behavior. That's not restorative justice. It is not. So we need to practice restorative justice how it was designed and how it is effective. That is how you deal with bullying. And bullying, I'm just going to tell you, bullying can be as much as this in class. Oh, God. As much as that. When you're asking a question and I'm sitting there and God, just that little bit is bullying, because that's devaluing you. And so again, what's the teacher to do when that happens? Am I going to get suspended? Because I'm going to say, I didn't do anything. I just rolled my eyes. I'm going to go tell my mom and dad, I just rolled my eyes. I didn't do anything. So bullying is a deep thing. It's not as simple as throw the book at these kids who are bullying. I'm all for reducing suspensions and expulsions, but I believe in the process. You go through the correct process, and your numbers are gonna come down. But you know what? You might just have an event that spikes those numbers. You might have someone bring weed brownies to school and give them out to 20 kids, and they give it out to 20 more kids. Well, you know what? That's distributing drugs, and so there's gonna be some problems there. Your suspension numbers are gonna go up. But if they're gonna go up, they should go up for the right reasons, when we've done all we can and when we're mandated to impose these expulsions and things like that. They absolutely should go up in that situation. But they shouldn't go up for frivolous things, and they shouldn't go up for things that are unproven. So that's my address to bullying. All of this, STDs, HIV, sex education, teen pregnancy, all those types of things, it truly comes from education. Every kid comes to the classroom with a different experience, different backgrounds. So as educators, we can't sit there and bash teen moms. You know why? Because some of our kids might be products of teen parents. Some of our kids might be walking around with STDs and things like that. We have to educate. And I know this is a political landmine. It is. However, it's what's right for kids. And as long as parents have the option to opt their kids out, which is ed code, Parents have the option to review the materials ahead of time, and they have the option to opt their kids out of those situations. Then we absolutely should be teaching these things because we are mandated to teach them. But what we should do is teach the material. This is not time, and this is where, as educators, this is where we get ourselves in trouble. When we bring our personal beliefs into the classroom, either anti these things, and you all can understand what that means, or super pro for these things. We have to follow what the curriculum is telling us to do. We are not there to influence kids one way or another. We're there just to educate and just to present the materials. Especially when you're talking about these things, which again are those political landmines. So I believe these should be taught. I believe parents should have the right to review the materials and to remove their students from it. I don't believe that parents not only remove their students, but then they fight and say, well, this shouldn't be taught to anybody. I don't believe in that. And I don't think EDCO supports that as well. Inclusion of all students. So again, you're talking about a culture. As a young person, I mean, I'm just going to tell you, I love football. I live and breathe football.
Yes, you want me to tell you the score for tonight?
No. So I'm just going to tell you, I live and breathe football. However, when I was principal on a high school campus, I could not be that principal who just went to the football games. So I went to the plays, I went to the public speaking, I went to the musicals, I went to the water polo games, I went to anything and everything I could. Because what the goal is, and the reason why we have so many things going on at our schools is to engage kids, to hook them in, whatever that might be. Whether that's an academy, whether that's band, whether that's a club, or any of those types of things, we have to hook those kids in and get them engaged in school so they can then find that passion to want to show up to school each and every day. So we need to include all of our students for whatever things, because we should not be the gatekeepers of who should be engaged and who should not be engaged. So this means that all students should be open to take whatever class that they want. All students should be able to go out for whatever club that they want to join, or go out for a sports team, or to be involved in the process. Just to be involved. All students should be involved, should have that opportunity. We should not be the gatekeepers to say, you can do it, but you can't, you can, and you can't. That makes no sense at all, but it happens all the time. And so those are those cultural things that we have to address. Before, because I've been doing this a long time, before I say certain things, I think about it. I have to say, how am I going to address this? So for example, I can't tell you how many times in schools I hear, oh, I can't wait for Christmas vacation. I celebrate Christmas, I love Christmas, and I like Christmas vacation. But you'll never hear me say Christmas vacation on a school site or in the district office. I won't say it. I always say holiday break. So that's inclusion. That's me being mindful of the people around me. So if I'm doing that for holiday break, what would I do in terms of a student who wants to wear a certain thing, or wants to dress a certain way, or who wants to join a certain club or do those types of things? Of course I'm going to support that. But again, it's the culture. I can't ram it down people's throats. You have to show them what the research said, you have to show them what EDCO says, and you have to show them what the law says. And then you have to say, this is the right thing to do. You got to show them it's the right thing to do. Teen suicide, super important. The mental health of our students nowadays is not like it was when we were kids. They are exposed to so much more than what we were. And the pressures on them with social media, and I'll just call it for what it is, social media is really affecting our students. And it's if any of you parents out here have kids or whatever, when you try to, engage with your kids, just try that when they have that phone in their hand. Try to engage. I have 3 kids, all college age, and it's tough. But teen suicide, so when you hear about, marriage and family therapy counselors on our campuses, which we have, MFTs, when you hear about, we haven't started doing this yet, but things like mindfulness and things like, circle and things like that, those are things that need to start happening, because it's not the old days. We can't just put our kids in rows. Here's your assignment, do the work, do the homework, and bring it back ready tomorrow. It just doesn't work like that anymore. We have to engage with our students. We have to know that our students are going through stuff. All kids. I don't care. Any kid from 6th grade to 19, 20 years old is going through something. They are going through something. And what I always tell kids, that kid you're looking at that you think has it all together, that star cheerleader, that star football player, that kid in all the AP classes, this kid and that kid, you think they have it all together, I guarantee you they're feeling insecure just like you're feeling. But we have to provide an opportunity for our kids to be able to talk and to be able to get help and to be able to learn how to deal with their feelings, learn how to deal with failure, learn how to deal with rejection, learn how to deal with success, all of those types of things. We have to work with our kids so that we can address this teen suicide issue. There's education code about teen suicide now. Now finally there is education code, but again, it comes to culture. You can't ram it down people's throats. You have to show them the research, you have to show them why it's important, you have to show it in action and why kids need it. I think I've addressed this. Clubs, things like that, all different types of clubs, definitely for our LGBTQT students. Why would we not do that? Why would we not? And some people say, well, you're going to have a club for everything. Well, then why not? We brag about how many clubs we have. We should have clubs. Kids are our most vulnerable, creatures. They are so vulnerable at these ages. They need to be with their peers. They need to be able to share experiences, to be able to feel comfortable around one another. And what the problem is that so many of them don't have that avenue, that they go searching for any type of thing so that they can feel connected and supported. So why would we not want to have, do you know what the suicide rate is for these students? Yeah. Okay, well, so it's a lot higher than the other students. Yes. So why would we not support that club? But again, you have to be able to talk about these things. You have to understand that people come from different backgrounds, different values, and they have different views on these types of things. And when they express their, when they express that they're maybe not in favor of this, instead of ramming it down their throats and saying, no, and being combative with them, you have to educate them. You have to educate them. You have to show them the numbers. You have to show them the statistics. You have to show them how these programs, these clubs work for students. Nutrition. I was at the continuation school. Well, it's not even continuation school. It's a school for our expelled students. So usually when a student is expelled, we send them to a county program. Well, in Vallejo and when I was in Antioch, we house them ourselves. They're completely separate from all other students, but they're housed in a program themselves. And when I spoke to those kids, I said, I want you guys to think about 3 things. And it was like a 15-minute talk, but I'll summarize it in about 30 seconds. I said, you have to show up on time. Like, so much of life is just showing up, getting there on time. I don't care what job you do or what class you're taking, you have to be there on time. I said, and number 2, I said, you have to be healthy. You have to eat healthy, you have to get sleep. You can't eat junk food, you need nutrition for your body to work. And healthy food, and so many times, our students don't have the opportunity to eat a healthy meal. I don't have an opportunity to eat a healthy meal. If I told you, well, I had a healthy breakfast today because I make sure I do that every day. But besides that, it's been protein bars and granola bars and cake, and I had a cupcake earlier and all these types of things, And I could go to any restaurant I want, I could go eat anywhere I want, but it's just what's available to me at that time. And think about what's available to our kids. You know, I drive, you know, sometimes at lunch, I leave the district office and I drive down Tennessee, and then I take a left, I think it's, I don't know, Highway 29, and end up going to Starbucks. But along the way, I'm looking for something to eat. Yeah. But what do I see? I see fast food, I see liquor stores, I see gas stations. I don't want to eat there. What do our kids have? What does a family have? Where can they go shop? You know, and you know, bring home healthy, nutritious food and stuff like that. And the thing that kills me is when I see our kids drinking sodas. It kills me. And I used to love sodas as a young person, but then as I got older and I realized how bad they were for us, every time I see a kid drinking a soda, I go, oh. And then when I see athletes drinking sodas, I'm like, what are you doing? So I'm all for nutrition. So I think that I've covered all of this on this list, and just so you guys know, I could do this in my sleep because I truly 100% believe in it. I didn't have to fib anything up here. I'm not looking for re-election or anything like that. I already have the job, but this is what I believe in. All of these types of things and much, much more. And I'm not gonna, you know, I've already been talking for probably way too long, but I mean, if we started talking about, you know, opportunities for college and you know, preschool things and you know, reading to young kids and that loving touch and things, I mean, you know, look at her holding her baby back there and stuff like that. That's what we need. We need more of that. That's what we need. So I started off talking about how, you know, nice it was to see this group come together, you know, and just to come and talk and learn and engage, and we need more of that. And so hopefully, you know, as I'm looking to improve Vallejo schools, so remember, there's not a magic program that I'm going to bring in, and I'm not going to, you know, have a silver bullet. I'm not going to fire one person and all of a sudden it's going to change, and I'm not going to hire one person and it's going to change. It's going to be a collaborative effort, and we all need to be on the same page. So since I've been here, I've met with, you know, police chief, I've met with members from the community, I've been out to our schools, I've met with everyone in the district office, I'm meeting with custodians, site safety, SRO officers, you know, I'm meeting with school board members, anyone and everyone who wants to talk, I'm willing to sit down and talk. And I'm gathering information, and then I have to come up with a plan on how to execute all this. But I gotta work with the culture first and the environment. And once we start getting there and start experiencing some success, we're gonna go a long ways. But it's gonna be it has to be a whole collaborative community effort. So I thank you guys. I'd be more than happy to answer questions and do whatever you wish.